It's Feel Good Friday with Dr. Phil 2. It's time to fill your Friday with something good. Come on together, let's shape a new start with clarity, confidence, and purpose. It's Feel Good Friday. What's up, everybody? It's Feel Good Friday, and we are in the place and in this space. Listen, it is time that we feel good about something on this Friday. There's a lot to feel bad about, but today we're going to feel good. And I feel good about my guest today, none other than the author, the speaker, and my book coach. My book coach. She does the right thing all the time. Hey, listen, everybody. This is Dorian Stewart from Dorian Inspires, Promise Pals, I Am Made, and the author of How Not to Get Hired. How Not to Get Hired. Hey, Dorian, how you doing today?
Hey, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I am great. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm awesome. Just glad that you are in here. And hey, listen, this is Feel Good Friday, and we're going to talk about some awesome things about things that you're up to, and we're going to talk about that because listen, my son has read your book, and I read it to him all the time, and so listen, this is the series of books, The Promise Pals, Unstoppable, I Am Made, and then your one of your books, How Not to Get Hired. So this is you. This is your display, which we see constantly. And so we're gonna break down your books first. How in the world did you get started writing all these? I mean, how many books now? You said about
19.
19 books.
19
Whoa.
books.
All right,
Yes.
you got to start from the beginning. How did you get started? When did you start? And how's that going?
So, interesting enough, my husband and I started the adoption process. So, we started, let's say, December of 2019.
Yeah.
And we were in the process of getting ready to do our adoption. And just as we were starting the process on March of 2020, um, we were waiting for the health department to come to our house, and the whole world shut down.
Wow.
Whole world shut down. And so we could not really move forward, but we were like, you know what? We're going to take the classes. We're going to do all the things that we can do. And while we were going through the classes, they shared things about how adoptees can feel about feeling unwanted, not loved. Many of them don't necessarily love their birthday because it feels like the day that their birth parents, rejected them. And I remember saying to my husband, babe, whenever we get our child, I'm going to write a book to let them know they're chosen and cherished. Well, the year later, we got our daughter. Shout out to Nyla and Patrick. And life was going. And I remember my husband and God was like, what happened to that book you said you were going to write? And I started making excuses like, oh, I don't know that I have this, or I don't know how to illustrate it. I'm not sure. And I was just making excuses for why I didn't write the book. And lo and behold, as I'm making excuses, God is like bringing classes to the front. Like I'm seeing, hey, you could take this class, or you could do this and do that. And I began writing the book. And my very first book was I Am Chosen and Cherished. And I made it the Promise Pals because I wanted kids to be able to claim the promise of God, and know that God is their friend, and beyond just mom and dad knowing that she's chosen and cherished, but that she knows that she's also chosen and cherished by God.
I love it. I love it. Yes, yes, yes. And that's crazy. So right after the pandemic, you get started with I Am Chosen. Now you went through the adoption process. How old was she when you adopted her?
Uh, so we got her at 1 month old. She was born in January. Yes. And in the state of Maryland, we were living in Maryland at the time, they require 30 days. So it allows for if the birth parents, say, hey, I changed my mind. And so there was a 30-day window. So by February, she was living with us and we were full time parents, but the actual court adoption where we actually like raised our hand happened in October of that year of 2021.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I'm going to get a little personal now with that because, it's just a lot of people are considering it, but they don't know. Now, what does she know about adoption? Does she know she's adopted? Does she know about her real parents? How does that process go?
So yeah, she knows that she's adopted. Ever since we got her, we would pray with her, and part of her prayer would be bless birth mom, birth dad, and like her family. And so we kind of started that because we didn't want there to be an age per se that she said, I found out I was adopted at 5 or 4 or even 10. So
Yes.
we started that process. And so she didn't fully understand that, I think, until maybe last year or this year, where she would say, Mommy, was I in your belly? Because obviously she's seeing her friends,
Yep.
either their parents have, kind of maternity shoots. And so she said, Mommy, was I in your belly? And I said, No, babe. Remember, we pray for mom and dad, or birth mom and birth dad. And so that began the conversation. And then we have something called a life book that, not so much a life book, but it's a book that we created, especially during the pandemic, so that the birth parents could choose us. So it introduces us, introduces our family and friends, and tells them a little bit about us. And so we kept a copy so that whenever she wants to kind of review and talk about it, we pull the book out and say, This is the book that your mom and dad saw that chose us.
Wow.
So
Wow.
that's how we begin that process. So she does know, but at 5, don't really know she fully understands that adoption process or what it
Right,
means.
right, right. Wow. But you have made a home for her and made a life for her, and that is amazing. That is amazing. And so out of this experience your books come, and so you have the Promise Pal. Now there are three phases to your book, or explain it, because we have I Am Made, we have Promise Pals,
Yeah.
but you also have the book that says How Not to Get Hired. Explain the process and the
Yeah.
breakdown of your books.
So yeah, so I said I was only writing one book. I had no intention of being an author. To be honest, I have a degree in healthcare management, and that's what I was doing when we began the adoption process. So I was like, I'm just gonna write this one book. And God laughed at my plan. He was like, Yeah, I don't think so. And so I began writing. So Promise Pals is really the faith-based books that I have. And so in every scripture at the end, or at the end of every story, it says, With God, I am chosen, cherished, and loved. Or with God, I am comforted and not alone. And so I began writing these books. But as I began um, kind of going into schools and trying to do my books, a lot of the public schools said, You got God, you have scripture. I don't know that that's going to be a good fit. And I thought I was done after that. And God was like, Yeah, you forgot about another set of kids. And so I began writing another set of stories, which is my inspirational version called I Am Made. It means I am motivated, affirmed, determined, and empowered. What's interesting about that is that it doesn't have any scripture, it doesn't have the word God, but it's very inspirational. And what makes this story unique from any other story is that these kids are considered the unlikely heroes. These are kids that are in wheelchairs. They have autism. They may be nonverbal. They have a major setback that now they get to be the winner. No one is going to take the boy in a wheelchair and roll him across the finish line. No one's going to help this autistic young lady actually become and shine. She has to find that, or he has to find that from within and be the hero. Growing up, we see them always being the one that never wins, or someone has to help them win. They have
Mhm.
something inside of them that is amazing and powerful and confident that can then allow them to be the hero in their story. So the I Am Made series really was to allow for one for me to read at in public schools, but more importantly, allow for other kids to see themselves as a hero. And then
Yeah.
finally, because like I said, I worked in healthcare, I was a hiring manager, I worked as an administrator, and assistant director for many, many years, over 23 years. I've seen the good, bad, and the ugly in interviewing.
Oh
Ooh, I
yeah.
have PTSD on that one.
Oh yeah.
And so I wrote the book, How Not to Get Hired, because of the things that I saw that allowed for some very smart and very educated people. It doesn't always have to be young, but this was more guided towards the young people to say, hey, if you had known this, you probably would have gotten a job. And so I try to explain in very simple ways in a guide to say, when you show up to an interview late, when you have nothing to say, when your body language looks like you're doing me a favor for showing up for the interview, here's how you're not going to get
Mm,
hired.
yeah.
And then what I do is I also share what hiring managers would like to see you do to recover and maybe get that second chance of maybe a second interview or us taking the risk of hiring you even though you messed up.
I love it. Listen, and I know I have messed up some of my interviews too. I mean, I
Look,
just
we all
remember
have.
I didn't even want the job really. I was just doing it because I felt like I needed to go for the interview, and I just wasn't prepared. I didn't even end up working that summer, and it was it was still a transformational summer, but but I did have a job. I'll tell you what, I did have a job, and one of my jobs for the summer after high school was an ice cream truck driver.
Really?
I was an ice cream truck driver. Yes,
Wow.
indeed. I was
Here
an ice
here's
and
here,
and
here's
yeah,
the
go ahead.
thing. Here's the thing that's really interesting about what, and I'm going to share this with people who are listening today. What people don't understand is that if a hiring manager hires you after you make a series of mistakes in the interview, we're not going to pay you a lot of money.
Wow.
So you may come with the experience, you may come with the education that's required,
Yeah.
but if your interview is not great and we still hire you, and as hiring managers, we also do some things that may not be great, but we know we may lose the budget if we don't hire someone right away. We may hire you, but we're not going to pay you the top dollar that you're worth because you didn't come into the interview like the person who we expected when we saw the application. And
Right.
so we kind of pull back on giving you that high expectation of a salary because we feel like, hey, we may have to bring in a part-time person to cover some of your mistakes. We may have to spend more time
Wow.
coaching you and guiding you, telling you to get out of the break room and
Yeah.
get back to work rather than you doing the job that we hired you for. And so we're not going to pay you that top amount that you are owed because you failed to come in correctly to an interview.
Now, there's always that trick question that HRs ask, if you could describe your weakness,
Yeah.
what would that be? How do you answer that authentically, but also positively?
So I'm going to be honest, that is a trap
Yes.
because we want you to be honest. But what we want to see, first of all, is that you recognize that you have a weakness because everybody has one. So if you say you don't have one, we know you're lying, right? But we want to know that you acknowledge your weakness and are you working towards it? So here's the answer. I tend to work extremely hard and I am great at multitasking. I haven't given my weakness yet. I am great at multitasking, but I sometimes take on all the work. And so what I've learned is that I am now learning to make lists and share and talk and
Hmm.
communicate with my staff to ensure that I am working as a team and that I am also communicating and making sure that the team is working effectively. Now that's from a manager experience. If you want to, talk about from like entry level, we could talk about that as well. But You want to state your positive, infuse the weakness, and then mention that you recognize your weakness and what you're doing to correct it. If you're
Yeah.
only talking about your weakness, that's great. And sometimes being too honest about your weakness, like, I'm not a morning person and I have a hard time waking up, and you end there, that's not good. You've
That's
already told
right.
me I'm going to spend more time saying you're late. We need to write you up. Clinic starts at this time. Your job begins at this point. Your weakness needs to say, even if that is your weakness, I have set 2 alarms and I have my coffee ready so that I am ready and always ready to go. And I have mastered this weakness. You've got to let us know that you have already addressed the weakness and the steps that you've taken to fix that weakness.
Yep. Yeah, that's powerful. And that's exactly what people need to know. That's exactly what people need to know. So listen, everybody, let's take a commercial here. We have right here this QR code. You'll see right here. Check out this QR code. This will take you to Amazon to check out all of her books. So I just put in her name and Promise Pals, and you will see several of her books on this link. So go ahead and scan this QR code and make sure that you go check out her books. Again, you're going to put in her name, Dorian Stewart. You're going to put it in into Amazon. Several books are going to come up, so you can check out I Am Courageous, which is the one that I read, especially. My son is an adventurer, so make sure that he reads that story. But there are so many others. I want you to talk about the one, um, and I'm not sure what the proper term of disability is, but you wrote a book. I believe it's Unstoppable. Uh, Tell me about that book and the method behind that.
Absolutely. So Unstoppable is about a little boy who has spina bifida. And so that they have a bit of an alignment. Um, some of them can be in wheelchairs, some of them require some support. And so this little boy really, really wants to be an athlete. And he tries multiple things to kind of get him to be an athlete. And he's already claimed it. He's like, I'm going to be an athlete. I want to go to the Olympics. And he tries a couple things. He tries basketball, and basketball doesn't work, to the point where he almost hits the janitor in the head with the ball. He then says, "You know what? I'm going to try javelin." And he takes his mom broom out of the pantry and he decides to go and practice outside. And that doesn't work. And his teacher recognized that this is something that he truly, truly wants, and explains to him about Paralympics. And because he is so determined, he actually finds his parents find him a coach who's actually also has spina bifida and is also in a wheelchair. He then says, "This is what I'm gonna do. I am gonna race. I think I can do this." And even when he finds the actual kind of race or competition that he wants to be a part of, while practicing, he ends up in a bush trying to make the curve. And
Wow.
in that process, he learns, and the coach shares with him that true champions never stop. They never fail. Keep getting better. They keep practicing. And he recognized, and I use this a lot when I do this presentation with kids. I am unstoppable. I am unstoppable. And kids understand that no
Yeah.
matter what they're going through, they are unstoppable. So whether you're in a wheelchair or whether you struggle with whatever it is that you feel that you have been purposed to do, you're not always going to get it at the first try. And you got to remember, I am unstoppable. And even in this
Yeah.
story, without telling the whole story, he doesn't necessarily win the gold prize that he thought he would. But again, he has to remember, I am unstoppable. And he then gets and actually wins his goal.
you know, and that speaks to resilience. It speaks to the power of resilience. It speaks to how a person can keep going no matter what their disability is, what their challenge is, or what their limitation is. being unstoppable. So that's a powerful message for children. And we're starting to see a lot more parents that are dealing with that, more upfront, more out there in the communities. I mean, parents have to move to certain communities and make sure they have the proper resources. So I think this book is powerful for them, and also something that they can read and can identify. So you've carved yourself a niche where people can really see that happening. And I just want to talk about. I'm gonna just share something. I was inspired by your books, and maybe by the 15th book. I'm not sure which book I got inspired by, but I saw what you were doing. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, this is the vision that I have. My wife wrote a book called "We Need More Clouds," and she had an illustrator that did a phenomenal job. Illustrator actually from the Ukraine, did an absolutely wonderful job on "We Need More Clouds." That's on Amazon as well. And I said, wow, how'd she get that done? And then I saw how you got it done, and you shared with me some of the secrets and things like that. And I was like, hey, this is it. This is it. And you gave me some proper instructions. Shout out to RK3. That is me. Yes, yes. What's going on? Yes, yes. Pastor G, the one and only. Yes. But listen, I mean, you gave me some powerful instructions on how to get my book done. And from our first meeting, it was our first unofficial meeting, but you gave me so much information that I was able to start writing this book. I was starting able to get going with the adventures of the Snuggly Wugglies. Now, this book I had been writing for years. Okay. I started telling the stories when my first daughter, who's 19, when she was young. And I started telling these stories in the car, just moving my hand, and just. And then my second daughter came, and I told her the story. So both of them, they get the stories. Hey, tell me another one. Tell me, and I would entertain them. Rather than the iPad, I had the stories, right? And then my son, he'll put down the iPad just for me to tell him a story, right? And I would do it. And I said, and so for the last 10 years or so, or even more, I've written the stories. I just haven't published the stories. I've always had intended to, but did not get to it. But I finally got to it because I saw what you did. You inspired me to get going, forming the characters, forming the right phrases, and then realizing, oh, I need to shorten my stories because I wrote, and I'm a writer, and I just kept writing. And so having that instruction with you was a powerful thing. So you are a book coach, and you helped me get my book out of my head, out of the computer, into, guess what, everybody, and it just came in, right? Just came
Woo!
in. And I have my book. You gave me proper instructions on how to get it done, right? So everybody, you can check out some of the graphics here. And I've learned even through the process how to upgrade the graphics and how to keep going. And so how to get my right here, my US ISBN, how to get all of that. So everybody, this is the product of her coaching. So if you want to, and I'm going to let you talk about coaching for just a second, but thank you. Thank you. I want to thank you. You inspired me. You got me going. And I saw how my wife got it done. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. But now I learned that I can get it done. So guess who's going to be working on my wife's next book, right? Right, the illustrator right here. I've always been into design, always been into art, but didn't know how to really get it done. You gave some instruction. Talk to me about coaching.
So first of all, we got to start off by saying congratulations again. I am proud. I am so proud of you in it, getting it done and following through on the steps of that. So, like I was sharing before, I have the book, but I have it for my coaching side to share with other clients. But my daughter was like, "Where's mine?" So now I have to go buy another one so that she can put it in her library. So
Yes.
before we even
Yes.
start there, we got to talk about how good it is because she loves the book. And we're tussling between the books. So now I have to get her own copy. And
Yes.
so when we talk about coaching, and to be honest, I was like, I don't know that I'm gonna be a coach. Um, but my business coach was like, Dorian, you've written at the time, like 14, 15 books. What is your what are you holding back from? And it then began the process of, okay, how am I going to share this message and allow for someone else to do it? It's not hard. God has already birthed, or you already have these messages. So many people are already taking the time to tell their children bedtime stories. They are creating and having creative stories that they share at their church or with kids in general, or using kind of illustrations to kind of share a message to kids to get the lesson across as teachers. How do I then formulate that to now put that into a book? We sometimes limit ourselves to just having just the person in front of us, not realizing that our message is to go beyond our four walls or beyond our city and state, but maybe all the way to across the world. And so I began formulating and talking about who's your target audience and the foundation. And then being able to say whether or not you think you're able to illustrate, let's talk about illustration. Whether you
Yeah.
hire or if you decide to do it yourself, you don't want to waste money. So you've got to talk to them about what you want to see in your illustrations. If you just say, I want my book illustrated, illustrated with how? How? Who? What kind of character? What kind of format? Are we looking at Snoopy Doo? What
You're right.
kind of what's your goal? And
Yeah.
so we talk about it whether you feel like you can illustrate or not. And then we begin that process. The other part that's really key is that you've published your book and that's great. But how do you make your book go beyond the first year, the second year? How are you
Yeah.
going to expand that book that you can make this either into a brand, right? Or you decide that this is going to be something that you want. Is it a one and done, or is it something that you want to expand? I thought I was writing one book. Here I
Mhm.
am 19 books later,
That's crazy.
building a brand that allows for kids to then in Japan and places in Australia where kids are also getting the same message of positive affirmations and finding that they are the hero within themselves.
That is powerful, and that is the goal, to get it out to the world. So listen, you can scan this QR code right here and you can get Dorian's book. Okay. You can go check that out because it's powerful. It is wonderful. All the books, your children will love it. And here it is. Here's mine now. Here is mine. You can go get your Snuggly Wugglies. You can scan that QR code. You can go to Amazon, Adventures of the Snuggly Wugglies. You can get that there. But we're talking about Dorian. So guess what? Let me put this back. Let me put yours back on the screen. So this is Dorian's, right? This is the QR code. I don't think they're allowing me to put multiple. So we're going to put one. We're going to focus on one. And if you want her to coach you next, go to this, email her here, and you can get that consulting done and get your book out there. Listen, there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody. There are thousands, hundreds of books on Amazon, even right now. And I write reviews for Message Magazine. I write them on books, I write them on music, on apps. So I'm always looking for another book to feature. And this is, and we've featured Promise Pals in Message Magazine. We have featured, and so want to let you know. Listen, we're proud of you, and we wish you nothing but success. But before we go, we've got to ask one question. It's Feel Good Friday. What can we feel good about today?
What can we feel good about today? Listen, if you're living on the East Coast, you've made it through the first snowmageddon of 2026. And that is one thing that you can feel good about today. But more importantly, um, We are actually living in a very interesting time, and it is so important at this point that whatever we are feeling right now, whether we watching on social media or news, our kids are feeling it. We are adults and can address it, but kids don't know how to address it. It's so important that we take the time to check in with our kids and that we are also making sure that they are also feeling good. Yes, thank God it's Friday and we make it, but are we checking to make sure that our children are also feeling that same kind of relief that way? And so it is so important that as we're happy that we've made it through the week, make sure that we're checking in with our kids, our young people, and making sure that as they're going through and seeing the things that's going on in society, that we are also there for them. We're letting them know that they can make it through, that they are unlikely heroes, and that they can actually win in their story. Um, Time to check in on our kids and making sure that their mental health and that their inner self is actually feeling good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's it. That's it. Listen, everybody. It is Feel Good Friday. We want to thank everybody who is tuning in on all of our platforms. Generally, we try to keep it to the Dr. Phil platform, but I wanted to open this up. So we'll be sharing this out some more. We want you to share, like, and subscribe. So whatever platform you're watching on, we'd love for you to subscribe and be a part of what's happening with Feel Good Friday. And make sure you go get the book. Go get our book, everybody. You've got the Promise Pals. Listen, you've got the Adventures of the Snuggly Wugglies. I'm very, very excited. Very excited. And actually, I have to mail one out because somebody bought it because they wanted their autograph on this, so I got to make sure I sign it real nice
Yes.
and then put it out there. So listen, a lot of wisdom. So make sure you contact Dorian for your coaching and to get your book out there, and that you can do the right thing. Do the right thing. Yes. Make sure that you do the right thing. So, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. And listen, there's always something to feel good about. This is Feel Good Friday. We'll see you next Friday. It's Feel Good Friday with Dr. Phil 2. It's time to fill your Friday with something good. Come on together, let's shape a new start with clarity, confidence, and purpose. It's Feel Good Friday.